Hello Cherries fans, hope you're doing well. Welcome to Back of the Net. My name's Sam Davis.
My name's Tom Jordan.
And it's a Monday, it's a beautiful Monday, and it's a glorious Monday, Tom. And you know why? The reason is I'm looking at the Premier League table and Bournemouth are not in the relegation zone. We're not teetering around the relegation zone. We're not even mid-table. We're 8th, mate. 8th. Europa League, is it happening?
I can't remember what it's like to lose football matches. Do you know what I mean? Absolute madness. But yeah, 8th in the league is astounding. I mean, you take it with a pinch of salt, the league table, but to be in this position with the fixtures we've had is, really, really pleasing, mate. And the last defeat was to Liverpool 9-0. They're below us. It's crazy. But yeah, great weekend, mate.
It's amazing how things are coming together for AFC Bournemouth at the moment, and all credit to Gary O'Neill and his management team and the coaching staff for getting us to where we are, because we looked moribund after Parker. We looked completely out of ideas, but he's instilled a philosophy, obviously, and the players are buying into it, and there seems to be some belief. It's not perfect, but it's certainly looking a lot better. So this is the second look where we do exactly that. If you're new to the channel, there are a couple of things you can do.
Well, first of all, click that subscribe button already. Just do it. Thank you. Because, really appreciate that. And this second look always comes out. Loads of content always. Give it a like. More people can see it. And cheers for the support. And keep supporting us and we'll keep doing it.
And I hope one of the people who is liking this channel is a certain Bill Foley. Hi, Bill. You all right? You're our new best friend.
Love you.
Got to say, though, what a performance it was for us to get a result in front of our new owner-to-be, our prospective new owner. He was up in the gods at Dean Court, the relative gods.
Yes.
And he was meeting loads of fans beforehand. You'll have probably seen on Twitter, there was Ethan's granddad, Dave King, posting a photo as well. I think Nick sent another one. Lots of people posing for pictures with the new owner, and it's fair to say after 90 minutes he would have enjoyed what he's seen. Yeah,
I'm sure we'll come on to it, but I think the reaction from the team going behind, and also the reaction from the crowd going behind, and then when we come back into the game, I felt it was a lot better in the stand, and the players were thriving off that, and he would have probably looked at it, the comparison from half time to the end, and thinking, I can get behind this. This is a team that are really together and grafting for every point and every ball on the pitch. So it must have been really nice for him, and just anything like that, you just think, I want it to start well, and it obviously started well for him, and he looked happy, and he doesn't know how to lose. So happy days, mate.
What was really good was I was listening to a soundbite from Jordan Clark and Chris Temple from BBC Radio Solent chatting to ex-Cherries chairman Trevor Watkins. Of course, he knows all about his business in sport. We've chatted to him previously on one of our interviews, but also on one of our vlogs as well. And it's a fascinating time for AFC Bournemouth, and it was really interesting to hear what he was saying, because he said Bournemouth are having a natural evolution. It's not a revolution like some are saying, but it is a natural evolution. And he said that Bill Foley, he offers a real chance of success given his track record with the Las Vegas Golden Knights and his track record in business as well. He said that quite often club ownership, when people take over clubs, they're quite often chance meetings that happen. Right. And then, it sounded like that with Eddie Mitchell and Maxim Demin, because he was building his house or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But so. What Bill Foley does, he offers the Cherries an ability to transform, in Trevor Watkins' word, and give it long-term stability. And what I thought was really good was Jordan Clark saying, but why did he buy it? Because let's face it, there are probably some more propositions which might be a little bit more attractive. But no, I think if you've got a good vision, as Trevor Watkins said, you've got money and you've got a strategy to take the club to the next level, it's actually an incredible proposition. And you also said that Bournemouth is pretty much the lesser UK equivalent of Monaco, mate. We could be doing big things at Bournemouth, and who knows where it can take us. But it seems, all the sound bites I've heard so far, and also his transparency, it's going to be a different type of ownership, but an ownership that fans are going to get behind. It's not all smoke and mirrors with this one. He's very open.
Yeah, I think so, and it's one of them things that I'm sure will be we'll see as and when. We'll see what happens. It's still very early days, and we're not sure. We haven't heard too much from him, and obviously because it's not you got official before we hear a bit more, I guess. But all we can go off is what we're hearing, as you say, the sound bites we're hearing and previous things that Bill Foley and groups he's been with have done, and it's time to be excited, really. I think there's not, it's always when you initially hear it, you think new American owners, you're a bit, I'm not sure. All we've heard so far is positive, I think. So yeah, let's enjoy that moment and let's just see where it takes us, mate. But I would say I'm like quietly excited, just keeping it a bit like what we're like on the football pitch at the moment. Excited with what I'm seeing and that we're 8th, but let's calm down as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next kind of few weeks and months and what more comes out and different things off the pitch and on the pitch and see where we're going, mate. But I'm confident we're going in the right direction.
In hindsight, I'm looking back at the actual Leicester game now, thinking it was probably the perfect fixture in many ways. But, there were easier teams on paper that we maybe could have been against. And I'm glad that we got the win for Bill Foley. But Leicester, mate, after their 4-0 win over Forest on Monday night, I tweeted and I said, rejuvenated Leicester. And maybe not, just that one win. I was wondering it could go two ways here. They could have the Liverpool effect, almost a false dawn. It proved to be the case, mate, because they weren't very good. We'll come on to that, but what we will talk about is the formation that came out at 2:00. It was Morgan Scott on the vlog that did the team news, and I watched a few other vlogs as well, and a number of fans on Twitter, and we were all looking at the lineup a bit baffled. No Jordan Zamora, but Smith and Fredericks, we weren't quite sure which way round it was going to be, but you sort of quickly came to terms with the way the team was going to line up, right? Yeah,
it was annoyingly, I said this was a good chance of me getting 11 out of 11 on the preview, and I got one wrong on each side. Daka played instead of Vardy, didn't he?
One day it will happen.
Yeah, Daka played instead of Vardy, which surprised me a little bit, but obviously, go on to it, Daka got the goal. And then, Zamora was out and Fredericks was in, and obviously when you see Jay-Z on the bench, okay, he's fit. So it's a tactical thing. Initially, when I saw it, I thought, maybe he's looking at that Forest game, what we did in the second half, he's gone to a back three there. Yeah. And then I think I quickly saw, I can't remember who it was, but saw a few tweets from people there, kind of from the Echo, saying that it looks like we're warming up in a 4. Thought, okay, so he's going with Smith there, and I was very surprised. Even all the way up to half time, I was very surprised, thinking when you've got a fit left back, do you need to shoehorn a right back in there? But as well, I'm sure we'll come on to, mate, there was a clear reason behind that, and that was after watching that Monday game, as you mentioned, against Forest. The only difference for me, Forest missed a few big chances that game. I know it was 4-0, but everything was through James Maddison. James Maddison is clearly their best player, and he's been playing off the right side, coming in, and it was obviously, Jay-Z likes to stay quite wide, and it was obviously, the thinking was we need Adam Smith in there for his experience to nullify Maddison, and whatever you say about what you think of this manager, it's worked out as a hell of a decision, because Maddison was pretty non-existent. He's always going to be decent with a few set pieces, but he was pretty non-existent considering he's their main man. So maybe that did work. We don't know what would have happened if Jay-Z had played, but Smith left back, and I thought Fredericks played well. And even when Fredericks obviously ran his race in terms of he's been out injured, I thought Stacey come on and done a good job. So really it's good to have them options. And also you've got to remember, I think, when you look at this system and that 4, if Smith's going to follow Maddison coming inside, you need someone in front of him that's going to be just chasing all day long. Castagna likes to bomb on, and you've got Tavernier, who's going to do that all day for you. So it's virtually like Smith's coming in as left centre-back, and then Tavernier's a wing-back. So it's very flexible. And yeah, as I say, I wouldn't have picked that team. I don't think many people would have, but that's why Gary O'Neill's the manager, and that's why he gets paid the money, and at the end, it worked.
It did work, but other than that, I think the team was pretty much as expected. And I've got to say, a number of people online comparing the first half performance to many parts of the Brentford game. I think that's a little bit unfair. I think we were a lot better against Leicester than we were at Brentford. Brentford was a really dull game. I think that we lacked creativity. And whilst you can take a look at these shots on target, which we'll put on screen now, it looks fairly even, and it doesn't look as though we were peppering them. We were getting into some really advanced positions this time. And I'll tell you what, Ryan Christie, that early chance, I think it was only after a few minutes. Lerma, I think, swept a ball through, which I think I don't know what he was trying to do with it, but he didn't deal with it well. And Christie, he's not the quickest in the world, but he was closing in on the keeper ward and decided to check back.
Didn't want it on that right foot, did he?
He didn't want it on the right, and it was so frustrating because those are the elements of his game that probably gets criticised the most. I don't know what this is me trying to be young and youthful now. The FIFA cards, where you've got your shooting.
Yeah, it can't be correct.
It'd be quite interesting to see what it is, but obviously we all know that he made up for it. But there were a number of occasions where his touch wasn't particularly good in that half, but he was getting on the end of chances. He had a header as well that was easily gathered by the keeper. I thought Phil Billing was quite off it as well. There were times where I think someone took a throw in. Was it Tavernier maybe, or Adam Smith took a throw in right in the corner flag by the Ted Mack? played at Phil Bill, straight out play. Just little moments like that. I just think, careless moments and some balls that weren't particularly good in it. And it did lead to a bit of frustration, but at the same time, we were creating chances. There was that ball slipped through to Christie where he pirouetted and the shot was weak, but it went into the keeper's arms. So much better than Brentford, I thought. Yeah,
I think so. I remember coming out half-time and thinking it's so typical that I think during Gary O'Neill's reign, the home games, obviously you've had to cut the 0-0s. So obviously that means we've been 0-0 at half-time. And this time we were behind at half-time. And I remember saying to people, I actually think we've been better than them two. As you say. It wasn't, we weren't peppering them, as you said. We weren't peppering them, but I felt that we had a bit more about us. And I felt we were getting forward, we were picking our moments better. And as you say, little things like Christie getting in behind, we hadn't been doing that in previous home games, kind of getting in behind the defence. So I felt there was more optimism, but also I thought, can Leicester take the sting out of it now because they've got that goal, which obviously we'll come on to. But yeah, I thought there was a lot better signs, and a real shame about the goal. But yeah, and Christie, it's just poetic that he ends up getting the winner in the end because that guy does everything so well, and then when he gets in front of goal he just changes. It's unbelievable. But yeah, absolutely delighted for him, and obviously we'll come on to the winner later on.
Yeah, when the goal did come, it was a cross that came in. It was partially cleared, but then it was recycled again and thumped into the box, and it was a partial clearance by, it was an attempted clearance by Mepham, but unfortunately hit the main man Lerma, and then came to Daka, who was actually facing away from goal, but then managed to pirouette and shoot with his right foot into the corner. And it really did come against the run of play, I thought, and it was a very scrappy goal. I don't really think you can put it down to any defensive mistakes. I think maybe knee-jerkedly on the vlog I said shambles or something, I can't remember, but really when I look back, you can't really blame anyone.
No, I think what was obviously a lot happens afterwards, but I think what wasn't looked at enough is I remember Tavernier getting the ball in kind of that left-back slot. And he beat a man really well, and everyone went, "Way!" And then he tried to beat him again, and he actually lost the ball, and then they crossed it, and obviously the goal came. So that was a little bit naive from him when he should have just probably cleared the ball. But yeah, it was one of them things. I think, like we just mentioned about Christie, that's probably within a few minutes the difference. He does a lovely pirouette and scuffs it to the keeper. Daka, to be fair to him, picks his spot, doesn't he? Yeah. But yeah, really harsh one. Lerma's not even looking, and it kind of hits him and falls in a decent position. But Daka takes it well, and yeah, it felt like I say, I don't think we were dominating, but it felt like, we didn't really deserve that, and can we pick ourselves up now? And obviously, fortunately, we found out we could.
We found out we could. We also had Dom Solanke that had a scuffed effort. He looked to pull the trigger, but then it sort of came off a couple of defenders and then went wide of the post. Leicester had another chance with Johnny Evans, I think it was, at the far stick, trying to, whether he could have shot from that angle, it was very tight. He'd have had to executed it a lot better than what he did.
Because you know where I was sitting, I'm right behind that goal, and I remember when I saw it, I thought, God, how have they fluffed that up? And then when I watched it back, I go, actually it's quite difficult. But in the moment, I remember thinking he could have easily got that in. So it's weird on angles, but yeah, they were still, I think level at half-time would have been fair, but as we've said, mate, I thought we were doing okay, but they were getting a few little moments as well, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and many of their chances were few. I think Maddison might have had a free kick. He had a couple, didn't he?
Yeah, and
he won in either half. Didn't really have much of a chance. And we went in 1-0 down. Chat to Tiggs at half time, and look, anyone with I hate saying a school because Bournemouth school comes with a reputation, but I'll be backed up in the comments here because I know that a few of you did go to Bournemouth school, and in my era anyway, you got your gradings, as I said on the vlog, with your work as a letter and then the effort you put in as a number. So quite often I'd get like, B2 or maybe C2. I mean, work was all right, but my effort was there. I would say that Christie was a C1 because, or maybe a D2. I don't know. Either way, I didn't think his output was particularly great, but it was clear that the effort was there, and he was picking up the ball in some nice little pockets in midfield and managing to spread it wide. But whenever he got put in at the vital opportunity, in the being the most advanced man. You almost just don't want him to pull the trigger because you know it's not going to go well, but we can be proved wrong. What were your chats like at half-time, mate? 'Cause you were in the other stand. I couldn't get you on the vlog. What was your managerial team talk to your mates at half-time? Yeah,
I'll also say I went to King's Eye, so for anyone out there who maybe didn't go to quite as well thought of school, I thought that Christie didn't deserve to be excluded.
But is that Kingsley?
Yeah, I think it's now Bourne Academy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're moving up in the world, mate, still going places. But yeah, I was going to quickly go on to the fact that, because the first thing I was going to speak about at half-time was I went down a little bit early.
Yeah.
And people talk about this Fredericks penalty incident where he got booked for diving.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously I've come out and I've just seen Frederick's been booked, didn't know what it was for, and then a few people talked about it, and obviously I've seen it
Well, that was
after.
just before half-time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I looked at that and thought, I watched back and thought, well, there's clear contact. I mean, it maybe would have been a little bit soft, but he can't book him for diving. He clearly didn't dive.
No.
You can see Frederick's one happy. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that quickly. But
Forgot about that.
yeah, I spoke to Matt Davies and Mark Jackson at half-time, and we got our finger caps on. We thought, we all know our football.
Go on.
Billing's got to come off.
We've got to go.
Get Billing off. We said it at Forest as well, and yeah, we thought we ain't going to do the reaction that he had then.
Yeah,
and Christie, I mean, he's never going to score. So we thought Billing and Christie should come off. So yeah, what do we know, eh? What do we know? And we were, laughing about that at the end. So we might keep doing that, because I think the last time I said Billing should come off was Forest. So yeah, it is classic, isn't it? And that's why, go on to it, that's why I think a lot of Bournemouth fans, we said it about the left-back situation, I think they were two players that a lot of people would have taken off. Yeah. And that's where the manager gets paid the big bucks, mate.
It's quite interesting. You know what? Completely forgotten. We'll chat about VAR later on, because honestly, this weekend I've just been so frustrated with it. In fact, on the AFCB match commentary, the BBC's Rachel Brown-Finnis actually said Frederick's stride pattern is hampered as he moves forward. That is a penalty. If that goes to VAR, that's given as a penalty all day long. Not so.
Book for diving.
Yeah, I know.
Book for diving. It's unbelievable. And there's little things. Like obviously, we're right at the moment. Just say that was Adam Smith was playing right back and he done that. He'd be suspended for 5 yellows.
Right, yeah.
People don't look at that kind of like, he's only got booked. But it does make a difference. So yeah, another one that, as I say, I didn't see at the time. Watched it back, and I think certainly the dive is ridiculous, and there was contact.
So people were tweeting, people were getting a bit frustrated, and I think the performance was a lot better. And I said on a tweet to someone, I think thanks to Gary O'Neill, we've actually probably raised our own expectations of the season, because any win over Leicester or any decent performance against Leicester would have been, considered incredible, really. But I think people were probably being picky. I think credit to Gary O'Neill, whatever he said at half-time worked. Yep. And the players came out, and they came out good, mate. They took the game to Leicester, and it was really nice to see. Obviously, G'd on by the North Stand as we were attacking it, but it was a different game. Yeah, it was. We come out really, really well, which I was pleased about. I think it was almost probably a good thing to be playing a team like Leicester who are not defensively sound, and it meant we could get at them and cause them a few problems. I think Face at centre half was really having a torrid time. I think Castagno ended up getting injured at some point as well. The fullback, who was probably one of their better players. So yeah, and we saw our opportunities, and like I say, we went from straight away, which was great to see. I think O'Neill said afterwards, when you're Bournemouth and when you're a team that is always going to be scrapping, always going to have probably less of the ball than your opposition. You've got to be safe, you've got to be compact, which he's proven. But there's times, like the Forest game and like this game, where you've got to kind of be less safe, and that was an opportunity to do that. I keep saying to people that say we're probably, we need to let the shackles off a bit. I go, well, Gary O'Neill's only ever been behind in 2 games of football, and in both games he let the shackles off and we won. Yeah. Why would he let the shackles off when we got points? Yeah. Well, the points are massive in this league. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, was really impressed with the way we come out in the second half, mate. It was. I was worried that first 10 minutes, you want to see, right, what's the reaction like, and I thought it was really impressive. A couple of chances of note. Tavernier had a free kick that was fired over, hit that kind of black pole that's holding the net up. Also, Mepham fired over. That was a bit of a half chance, really. Sort of saw it late, and that went high and wide. But it wasn't so long. I think after that, Neto had a save from Maddison from a free kick from 30 yards out. Never really probably going to trouble him from that range. But then Phil Bill scored, and tell you what, mate, Solanke works so bloody hard, mate. Long ball forward, chases down what could have been a lost cause. Face, very similar to what happened with Nottingham Forest, really.
Just about to say that.
The kind of, I don't know what he was trying to do, but I play it back to the keeper, but he fluffed his lines, and Solanke sort of came in. Not dissimilar to when we played Leicester in the 4-1 from that position. Coming in. Where he came in and was looking to get a shot away, but he tried to come back and get a shot on his left, and the way it bobbled, it just set up so nicely for Phil Bill. And as hits go, when you hit it so sweetly on your instep like that, it's absolutely lovely to see. And whilst the keeper got a hand on it, the power was just too much. Yeah, I think probably gone under the radar a bit how good that technique was from Billing. Really good. You see that goal we scored against Forest, and everyone's going to talk about it. That one less so, which I understand, but that's easy to just blaze that and to just air kick that easy. So yeah, really good finish. And as you say, Dom, mate, I thought exactly the same in that same kind of position on the pitch.
the reason these two centre-backs, as we said about, I think it was McKenna, wasn't it, at Forest?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Is because they're not used to strikers doing what Dom does. Dom, yeah, he might not get the goals of a lot of other strikers, but what the shift he puts in, they're not used to having someone. And that was exactly the same, a ball just down the channel, because whoever, I can't remember if it was Smith in both games, might have been actually, who just plays that ball down the channel. They're playing that ball because they know Dom will give them something.
And it's effectively an assist, effectively.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, he was just grafting all game like he always does. And yeah, it was obviously the block meant it fell nicely to Bill in, but I like that from Bill. That's what you need. We say it so much on this show, is that if Dom's going to do all that, then when he's getting in them areas, Bill's got to be closer to him. And in that moment, he was where he needed to be. That's where you want your kind of number 10 to be on the pitch. So yeah, really pleased for him, and like you say, connected with it really well. And then perfect time to score as well, not long after half time. Then the game's completely swung and the ascendancy's with us. And yeah, and the crowd are behind them, all that good stuff. So yeah, that was a big moment, mate.
And then within 4 minutes, in the quickest of quick turnarounds, it's Ryan Christie that gets on the end of an opportunity. And to me, it looked like a bit of a scuffed shot, but to be honest, that actually probably worked in his favour, didn't it? Because it went past the hapless ward and Bournemouth were 2-1 up. So it started on the right-hand side, and Ryan Christie laid off to Fredericks, who put the ball into the box, and there was a little bit of a melee, but it fell as far as Phil Bill. And he sort of
they gave Billing, by the way, that was, if you're a Leicester fan, how Billing's getting that ball on the edge of the box and just looking up and chilling out. I mean, it was really
so much time. They're just looking, and he just puts over this delight with the left foot, with the outside of his left foot, this delightful ball, and Solanke between two defenders, he actually beats face to it. And Christie, who was starting on the right-hand side, he kind of carried on his run, and he knew that was going to happen almost. It was almost like a little bit of a set piece within a moment, and it fell to Christie. And you know what?
What a finish!
We're looking at it now, right? The contact's not clean, but had he got a clean contact, the keeper would have saved it. I don't know if he intentionally put it into the turf, but that's probably the only place he could have put it to actually get it in the back of the net. And the speed wasn't great, but I was wondering, is it going to be cleared? Is it going to go to goal line technology? It didn't need to be.
I want to give him as much credit in the world and say that he meant that, but I think all of Christie's goals in a Bournemouth shirt have been because he's miskicked them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it weirdly was the best player to fall to, because Dom's probably connecting with that and he's hitting the keeper. Yeah. So yeah, it was a weird one. But I think what he deserves a massive credit for, you just done it there, go through the goal, mate, is when we said where it started from, we went, Christie gives the ball out wide on the right. Well, how's he then the one scoring?
His work rate is absolutely ridiculous. From a Leicester perspective,
that's really poor. He's the one that's starting the attack, really, and then he's the one getting on the end of it on that left side. So yeah, that's good movement from Ryan Christie, really good movement. And yeah, Billing got a lot of time. Dom does really well. Like I say, for both goals, he's had the beat in the face, one on the deck and one in the air. And yeah, Christie scuffs it. I think for both goals, from a Leicester perspective, you're going, is this where we're missing Kasper Schmeichel? I think that ward looked shaky. I really did. And that probably helped as well. But yeah, as you say, mate, he just he jumped and Christie just kind of scuffed it underneath him. I mean, should we just say he saw the keeper coming out and he put it underneath him calmly? I'm not sure. But that was definitely one I was glad I was behind the goal, because I could tell it was going in. Because I can imagine for you, it probably looked like it could get cleared off the line because it was so slow, like you say. But, limbs, mate, limbs. I felt it's too early.
I think Leicester, after that, they had couple of half chances, but we actually got the ball in the back of the net. Jayden Anthony being on the end of it, who was brought on. We'll also talk about the substitutions, by the way, in a minute. But yeah, that's probably the latest offside flag I've ever seen.
I feel like I'm used to it now, these late offsides, and I feel for the linesmen because I think they're clearly getting told to do it. Yeah, so they can't go against it. But yeah, I'm really happy with that rule that's always been in place. That obviously you take the free kick from where the offside is, because I just thought, I'm right behind it, like, there's no way Jayden Anthony's offside. I'm fuming, I'm going off of the liner, and then they go, oh, it's on the halfway line. Oh, it might have been offside before, and obviously it was. But yeah, horrible, because you just think they must have done it for Anthony, who was clearly onside. So yeah, shame, because that would have been, we keep talking about how we've come back from behind again, like we did at Forest, and it would have been exactly the same. Anthony off the bench to get the third. So it would have been fitting. And I saw Anthony tweet saying, note to self to not jump in the crowd until you see the flag, because he was buzzing. He went straight into the crowd.
But when it's that obvious, though, that obvious. But I mean, that linesman had to do a hell of a lot of work, didn't he? He had to run all the way down to the byline and then go back onto the halfway line to signal for offside. I was buzzing at that point, and you know what? It took me a while to realise.
Yeah, it did.
That it actually flagged. But mate, what a win!
Yeah,
2-1, 8th in the Premier League, and like I said, there were some people sticking to their guns about O'Neill, but the fact that we're being picky after getting 3 points just shows how much he's brought us on after Scott Parker. I mean, I know we beat Villa at the start of the season, but we all still thought that we were relegation fodder, as did the media. And maybe we still are, but the fact that we're now expecting more from games in itself is a massive credit to Gary O'Neill. And in terms of what's going to happen with him, I don't know. Why change it?
No, I agree. I think I could see people's points. I think it's weirdly reminiscent to last season in the sense that a lot of people were going, yeah, Parker hasn't lost. You know, when he had that run, yeah, he hadn't lost, and yeah, we did all right, but we should be going for him a bit more, which I understand that because you want to see entertaining football as a fan. But we're doing the same thing, kind of going, yeah, O'Neill hadn't lost. People are going, but can we go a little bit more forward because we had a few nil-nils? Yeah. But the difference, we're in the Premier League, not the Championship. Yeah, so the reason, personally, just speaking for myself, the reason I was frustrated when we were still getting results in the Championship was that I felt we had the best squad in the league. Yeah. I'm not as frustrated when we're drawing 0-0 at home in the Premier League because I know how valuable a point is, because we need to make sure we're in the top 17, whereas last season I felt we needed to be in the top 2. Yeah. So there is a difference, but I do appreciate why people, you pay your money and you want to see a little bit more expansive football. But I felt, the fact is, I think I mentioned it earlier on the show, mate, the fact is we've been behind in 2 games since O'Neill's been here and we've won them both. So when he's needed to let the shackles off, he has. I get that then people will go, but maybe if he'd done that against Wolves and Brentford, we win. Maybe we would have, but maybe we would have lost. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, points, again, what he's done, the points tally, and I've said it before, that point at Newcastle was a bonus point. That Wolves game was his first game after we just lost 9-0. I think drawing 0-0 after you just lost 9-0 was brilliant for any team, just to show that you can defend. And yeah, I think at the moment, we're picking our moments, and I think it's okay. For a wider conversation, would I go and give him a massive contract? No. Would I go and look for someone else? No. I think you've got a unique situation this season where the league's kind of split into 2 because of the World Cup. And I think personally, you don't do anything publicly, but I think if you're Bill Foley, new owners, or if Moss is still involved, or Blake or Francis or whatever, you go and have a word with O'Neill and say, look, you've got the job till the World Cup and then we're going to have a little chat. You're doing really well, it's yours to lose. Don't put anything in the media. I always think back to United when they just randomly gave Solskjaer a contract. And I think just keep it as it is, calm down. If you don't know the new owners, they might have someone in mind, whatever. But it'd be madness to change a manager who hasn't lost. But it'll also, in my opinion, be madness to just give him a contract. I think you see where you are at the World Cup. If we're still in the bloody top half in a healthy position, I think you maybe give him to the end of the season. You see what happens. But either way, at the moment, we're in safe hands. Yeah. And I'm happy, mate. I don't expect us to be ripping teams apart and playing unbelievable football in the Premier League.
You said the word moments, that reminds me of Scott Parker. But Scott Parker did do a lot wrong, but sometimes he got it tactically right in a number of games. And absolutely. I think for that game, I think he did get it tactically right. There's no point in starting gung-ho. When you're playing a team that's very open, you don't want to be open yourself. And whilst their 4-line scoreline looked very flattering, Forest had chances, and on another day, we could have been having the same fate as Nottingham Forest if we'd been that open. But as it happened, we just remained resolute. And look, 1-0 down at half time, we have to open up a bit. And when we did, it worked. But there's no point in doing that from the very beginning. And some of his substitutions, mate, I said we'd touch on them. Obviously, we've talked about Jack Stacey and how he filled Frederick's boots relatively well.
Really pleased for him, actually. Really pleased.
Me too. I like Jack Stacey.
Yeah, and I think it would have been very safer and easier to just put Zamora on and move Smithy over. Because Fredericks was obviously, he's had injuries, so he wasn't going to last the whole game. But he knew Smithy was doing that specific job, as we mentioned on Maddison. So he brought Stacey on, and you think, oh, Stacey, is he going to be as switched on defensively? Yeah. But the engine the boy's got. So yeah, really pleased for him, because his minutes are going to be few and far between. He randomly got chucked in, didn't he, under Parker at City out of position. And I felt that might knock him. So I'm really pleased for him. And yeah, Anthony come on, and unlucky not to get a goal, but that gave us a bit more energy.
So what happened there then in terms of the formation with Anthony going on? Because he's a wide player.
Oh, and he come on for Billing, didn't he? Yeah. So it looked like we kind of moved Christie a bit more kind of central at times.
Which you can do.
Yeah, and the thing with him and Tavernier, when they're your wide options, both of them could probably do that number 10 role. They could both do that Billing role, and Anthony just gives you a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy. So I think it was the right one. And then obviously at the end we just chucked on Kiefer to just do a bit of Shiauji, who was brilliant at it, by the way, just keeping the ball in the corner, big and strong, and he. So yeah, that was really pleasing. I just wanted to quickly go on to a point, mate, when we talk about O'Neill and this kind of maybe being a little bit more safe and not being too expansive. I think what people aren't looking at enough is the fact that I think he's been forced into playing this way a little bit by the injury to Lloyd Kelly. I think if you could be a little bit more open when you've got a quick centre half. On the transitions, on the counter-attack, you've got Lloyd Kelly who can recover. Both our centre halves who are doing incredibly.
I was about to come on to them, but yeah, you go first.
But the only thing they both lack is pace.
Yeah.
And so if you're playing without Lloyd Kelly, you've got to go. If we're open up, we're going to get caught every time because we haven't got any pace at the back. So I think he's gone, right, we haven't got Lloyd Kelly, we're going to have to be a little bit deeper, a little bit. I do think that it'll be really intriguing when Kelly, the most positive thing is we don't have to rush him back because we're in capable hands at the moment. But if Kelly were to come back and say, Celestia or Mepham were to make some errors or whatever, and Kelly ended up getting himself back in the team, it wouldn't shock me if we're a little bit more open because you've got the recovery pace. I just think that's a point that people aren't looking at, is we haven't got a quick centre half for the transitions. And, you're playing against Daka and then Vardy and people like that. You've got to be, if you ain't got any pace at centre halves, you've got to be deeper.
His inclusion did concern me a little bit. And Leicester got into some okay spots during the last sort of 10 minutes, but they didn't really do much with it. I think they were down by the byline and putting balls across, which Neto or the defenders were dealing with. And like you say, Senesi and Mepham, mate. I mean, what a partnership that is. I don't know how Lloyd Kelly's going to come back into the side, mate. I'm sure he will, but when he is back. But really solid.
Do you remember when they did I can't remember what they did at Barcelona when they had Messi, Suarez, and Neymar, the old MSN, Mepham, Celestia, and Neto, mate. Yeah. MSN Messenger. That's what it is. I'm loving it. But yeah, what I would say, I was talking to my dad about it because obviously I hadn't seen Celestia in the flesh, don't go to the game, so I was kind of saying I was doing really well now after a difficult start. And I said the way I describe him is he's a proper defender.
Yeah.
He's not rapid. He's not. Lloyd Kelly gives you a different style in the centre half. But what Celestia does do is he reads it really well. He's not too tight, but he's also not too standoffish. If he sees a moment to make a slide tackle, he goes for it.
Yeah.
He's a gladiator.
Yeah, I love
but
that.
He is in the way he plays, and Mepham's confidence is really helping as well, and he's kind of being a leader back there. But yeah, absolutely delighted for him. I think online he actually got the man of the match again. Celestia, I know Christy got it on the game, which normally goes to the match winner, doesn't it? But I think, again, like the last few weeks, either centre-half could have got it comfortably for me. I also think the two in front protecting, Lewis Cook and Jefferson Lerma, they're almost not getting the plaudits at the moment because they're so consistent.
Yeah.
So you just think, they were obviously good. But you're not talking about them enough. But I think them two are incredible at the moment, really do.
Just take a look at the average positions on screen at the moment. Look how advanced Fredericks is, mate, for his average position.
And Marcus Tavernier.
Yeah, and Tavernier as well. Like, obviously, the substitutions were made, and Jack Stacey maintained that to some extent, and there's Leicester's as well. And
can we look at Kiefer Moore's average position, by the way? Because he's keeping the ball in the corner, isn't it? Yeah, I love it. But yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned it then when you look at the average positions. I was meant to touch on that I think I saw that Tavernier had the most touches in the final third for any Bournemouth player. And had the most progressive passes and all these kind of stats. Yeah. That Tavernier is the one that even from a deep position is getting forward, is showing them legs, is trying to help Dom when he can. And I think that energy, him and Christie are almost like very similar players, and that energy around the pitch and the intensity that it allows us to give is massive. So I was really pleased for Tavernier again, who just wanted to get that first goal for the club because I think he's been a really good signing.
Momentum in the Premier League, that's certainly what we have now, and look, there are going to be some real hard days for AFC Bournemouth this Premier League season, but it's so important to get points from the teams in and around us, and we've done just that. And like I said on the vlog, we didn't actually think Leicester were going to be one of those at the start of the season, but we've gone and done it, so I think it's absolutely superb. We're going to hear some fans' thoughts coming up now from the likes of Morgan Scott, Filippo, etc. So here's what they had to say.
So Saturday, we started the game quite poorly, conceding within 9 minutes through their striker Daka. I thought Vardy would start, if I was honest, but no, they went with Daka. And it was a pretty lucky goal. I wouldn't say it was up there with the best. And then we go on to be 1-0 down at half-time. About 65 minutes, I'm crying out for changer, and what do I know? Philip Billen pops up with a great strike into the roof of the net to make it 1-1. 3.5 minutes later, I'm still thinking more, do we need to make any more changer? I think they brought on Vardy, and Dom Solanke gets behind the fullback, and puts it on a plate, and Ryan Christie with a cute little chip over Danny Ward to put it into the back of the net. We could have gotten third through Jaden Anthony correctly ruled out for offside and didn't take too long. But that was my thoughts of the game. We go to London next. Mr. Mitrovic, we're coming for you. Up the chairs.
So just wanted to say what a great win on Saturday it was. Now only 3 defeats in the season. Who'd have thought that after the Liverpool game? Gary Anu's doing a fantastic job. So really happy with what he's doing. Just to temper with the fact that I think Leicester were really poor. They look like they're not playing for their manager, whereas clearly our guys are playing for O'Neill, and that's great to see. Mepham and Senesi, have to give them a shout out. Looking like a really good partnership. Does Kelly come back in when he's back fit? Who knows? Smithman, Mark Maddison, and obviously did a great job at doing that. Do we bring back Jay-Z for Fulham? Anyway, it's all good problems to have. So let's see what happens at Fulham. Up the cherries.
Time for it again. The Cherries win 2-1 against Leicester City, and it's another turnaround, but this win is more deserved that the score says, because we were way the better side, and Leicester was bad, and I don't explain why they play so bad, but also I can't understand the lineup by Brendan Rodgers with Jamie Vardy, Iheanacho and Jose Perez on the bench. My Italian team, AS Roma, faced them in the semi-final of Conference League, but it was a different lineup, but they played also way better, but we don't really care about that, doesn't we? 12 points on the board. Gary O'Neill is unbeaten in 5. I still think that the new board is gonna search for a proper manager during the World Cup break, I think, but Gary O'Neill is really earning his job. He is really doing well, and this team had a completely change on the quality of play. Until next Saturday, up the Premier Cherries.
Lovely moment for a bit of sunshine after a wonderful weekend of football. Very simply, we look organised. We look like we have the ability to turn up our tempo when we need to. Senesi and Meps are forming a brilliant partnership, and everything seems to be hunky-dory. I mean, at this stage of the season, could you actually imagine that we'd be 8th? I think everything's looking bright. Stay positive. 3 hits come at the weekend at Fulham. Can't wait for it. Up the cherries.
Great to hear from them. Really good. And if you want to get your thoughts on, you can send them in over the weekend. We just need them by about Friday lunchtime. Details are below in the description. So then we went on to Sunday in the Premier League. We were all hoping certain results would go for us so we could maintain our 8th position. And that happened with Arsenal beating Liverpool 3-2. Also the Man United result at Everton as well. So that all boded well. But I've got to just talk about the Arsenal Liverpool game. I thought Arsenal deserved it, and I thought they were brilliant. And I was, as someone who likes entertaining football, that was a cracking game. Can't help but notice early on in the game, though, mate, where Liverpool are on the attack. It's on the right-hand flank, and then a ball comes in, and a yard away, was it Gabriel who handballed it in a position that's unnatural, a bit like Jefferson Lerma at Newcastle. We're going to have the comparison on screen now. So it's worthy to know at this point, both referees in both games, they waved it on. They said play on. But VAR at Stockley Park, for one incident, the one at the Emirates, they decided, no, it's absolutely fine. Didn't get the ref to check the screen. Whereas at St James's Park, they asked the referee to have a look at the screen, and then he overturned it, and then he gave Newcastle United a penalty which was converted. What the hell, mate? I do not understand VAR anymore. They're saying they're trying to give the referees more control, but VAR themselves actually were the ones that decided that one should be looked at and one not, when they're practically identical. I do not get it.
No, I don't get it.
It's so infuriating.
Every match week, nearly every game, there's a weird decision, and it's just the consistency. That's what we keep talking about. From a personal point of view, I think you can all have your own kind of opinions on it. I personally don't want any of them to be given as a penalty. I think they're so hard when you're that close to someone, having played football with the handball rule. But if Lerma's is a penalty, then that's a penalty. There's no consistency whatsoever. And
if Lerma's isn't a penalty, then that's not a penalty either.
Exactly.
So, I don't care which way it goes. I just want them to decide what handball is.
Yeah.
And then either have both the decisions the same or not. There was an Arsenal fan that sort of misread what I said and said, what you want about? That's never a penalty. Well, fine.
Fine, then ours.
Nor was ours then.
Yeah, I know, I totally agree. We also had another one, didn't we, at Forest, which wasn't talked about as much because we ended up winning the game and went against us. I briefly mentioned that Fredericks got booked for diving when there was clear contact in the game we had at the weekend. So another hat off, by the way, to us at the moment, that we're 8th in the league. Gary Neal hadn't lost a game, and every VAR call we have this season has got against us.
And if we had, we've had the stats. Ollie's been on the vlog before saying that we'd be much more advanced in the league table. So
you'd think if Bournemouth were in that position, they must have getting the rub of the green. We're really not. And we're 8th, and it's unbelievable, really. I mean, you look at, obviously you'll never know because there were time left in the game, but if you want to look at it black and white, we could have went to Newcastle, who were unbelievable at home, by the way, and won if it won for VAR. We could have won that game away at Newcastle with it's really frustrating. But as VAR as a whole, mate, I've never liked it just because of what it does to a match going fan. It kills it. It's horrible, and I just don't like it. It's trying to make an entertainment sport into a science, in my opinion. When you've got a referee for a reason, I can stomach it a little bit more if the one man whose job is very difficult has made a bad call. But when a bad call's made and you know that the on-field referee has made a bad call, but also people watching it on the TV screen with loads of readers have also made a bad call. It's very, very hard to stomach. So, yeah, I hate it, mate. But the only thing is, it's so inconsistent that you feel like every single team at some point of the season will have things go against them. So, hopefully, it never always works like that, but hopefully it'll even itself out, and that means that we're due a few, hopefully, from our perspective.
It's almost like they aren't calling Stockley Park. They're calling Nicky Campbell from Wheel of Fortune. I don't know if that one's that reference is right. And he's like spinning that wheel, and then whatever happens. You either get 1,000 points or bankrupt or lose a turn. You still don't know what I'm talking about. Carol Smiley.
Is it up there with like your Pointless and Tenable?
This was back where they had the. We'll talk about this afterwards. But yeah, look at that league table once again. I just can't help but look at it, mate. Should we?
Well, I was just saying. You said it's important. We're getting points against teams in and around us. I disagree. We lost to Liverpool, who are in and around us. You all said that the result was good for us. That Arsenal won. I think Arsenal have got away from us now, haven't they? That top. No, it's joking aside. Apart from the goal difference, which is funny, obviously after that bad result, it's. Fantastic, and it really sets up nicely for our next game as well, Fulham.
And you know what, Fulham fans will be watching because I know they do. What are we friends now? Are we? There's not going to be any scathing comments. I know that you tried to defend Solanke when he was up against Mitrovic for the PFA Player of the Season for the Championship, which is fine. We had to do a job, and ultimately Mitrovic came through and won the trophy anyway. But are we all good now with Fulham? Are we gonna hug it out? Have our Parker therapy session?
Yeah, a little mutual thing for Parker.
We love you.
Yeah, it's weird. I think what will be going into that game. Obviously, we're going to preview it later in the week, but obviously they really missed Mitrovic at the weekend. Will he be back? I think that's massive for him. I think I've got to do a piece for BBC, haven't I, as well, mate? Talking about
check that out.
Talking about who's going to finish higher, and I've got to try and back the boys. So, and I think that's going to be my main point of call. It'll be interesting. I think Mitrovic is that key for him. I think Mitrovic is that key for him. So hopefully he's not back from our perspective. But obviously for Fulham's they need him back. But that's going to be a really good game, mate. And I actually think that's a really tough place to go, Fulham. It's going to be a really difficult game. And I think if we can go there, nick a point, and then beat the scum in the week, then happy days, mate. But yeah, I think that'll all centre on that. But at the moment, Bournemouth 8th, Fulham 9th. Let's just all laugh at Forest a little bit, shall we? Sorry, Cookie. I do love Steve Cook.
Yeah, no, Forest is okay. Yeah, Steve Cook's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. What's coming up this week on Back of the Net? Well, we're going to remind you later on in the week of how good the weekend was with our 1 minute matchday vlog. Check that out. But tomorrow is the Premier League show where Tom is going to devise his team of the week. We're going to do a a roundup of all of the Premier League match weeks. We'll chat about FPL, I'm absolutely certain, and also pay tribute to Mikel Arteta, who seems to be doing a hell of a job. Something's happening at the Emirates. Something's happening. Anyway, that's tomorrow. Enjoy your evening. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries. Will we ever lose?